Imagine a world where feedback is honest, constructive, and genuinely caring. A place where managers and employees can thrive by being both kind and direct. Sounds ideal, right? That's the power of radical candor. Hi everyone, welcome back to Wealth, Wisdom, and Insights. Today we're going to unpack a groundbreaking book on leadership and communication, Radical Candor by Kim Scott. This isn't just any leadership book, it's a must-read for anyone in a management role and for anyone looking to build stronger, more meaningful relationships at work. Whether you're leading a team, managing employees, or simply looking to improve your communication skills, this book will change the way you give feedback, build relationships, and get results. But here's the real magic. It teaches you how to be both caring and direct at the same time, without compromising either. Let's jump into the heart of radical candor and explore how you can apply it in your life and workplace. This book is split into two key parts. Part 1, a new management philosophy, and Part 2, tools and techniques. Stick with me, and by the end of this video, you'll walk away with actionable strategies to transform how you communicate and lead. Let's kick things off with Part 1, a new management philosophy. At the core of radical candor is this simple yet profound idea. You need to care deeply about your team members as people, while also being willing to challenge them directly. In Kim's words, it's about giving guidance that's kind and clear, specific and sincere. Think of it as tough love. You're not just being nice, and you're not just being blunt. Radical candor is about finding that sweet spot in the middle. In her own life, Kim gives us an amazing example of radical candor in action. When she was working at Google after giving a presentation, her boss, Sheryl Sandberg, pulled her aside and said, "That was a great presentation, but you said, a lot." Kim thought Sheryl was being a bit nitpicky, but she quickly realized that this was Sheryl's way of helping her. Sheryl wasn't criticizing to be mean, she was challenging Kim to be better. So she suggested that Kim work with a speech coach to fix it. That's radical candor in action, caring personally while challenging directly. To fully understand the radical candor framework, let's talk about the other feedback styles that aren't so effective. Each of these is the opposite of radical candor, and here's why they don't work. First, there's ruinous empathy. This happens when you care about someone, but you're too afraid to challenge them. Maybe you don't want to hurt their feelings, so you stay silent or sugarcoat the truth. The problem? It leads to underperformance and frustration for both parties. Kim shares a powerful example where a manager kept telling an underperforming employee that everything was fine because they didn't want to hurt their feelings. But what happened? The employee was eventually fired, and they were completely blindsided. They had no idea they were underperforming. The manager thought they were being kind, but in reality, their empathy was ruining the employee's chances to improve. Next, we have obnoxious aggression. This is when you challenge someone directly, but you don't show any personal care. It's blunt, rude, and can create a hostile environment. It's the jerk boss stereotype, someone who criticizes without caring about the person behind the work. Kim shares an example of a particularly harsh CEO who had the motto, "If you don't tell people when their work isn't good enough, you're just letting them fail." He was direct, but lacked care. The result? Employees felt alienated and demoralized. Sure, some improved, but many lost their motivation and quit. And finally, there's the worst quadrant, manipulative insincerity. This is where you neither care nor challenge. You're passive-aggressive, insincere, and often you'll say one thing to someone's face and another behind their back. Kim talks about a time when one manager constantly praised employees to their faces, but would then criticize their work in private meetings with senior leadership. This two-faced behavior destroyed trust, creating an unhealthy and toxic work environment. Manipulative insincerity poisons teams and breaks down communication. Now, building radically candid relationships. So, how do we actually practice radical candor? Let's dive into some practical tips from the book. Kim tells us that at the core of radical candor are relationships. Building these relationships comes down to showing your team that you genuinely care about them, not just as employees, but as people. One key tip from Kim is, get to know what motivates each person on your team. You need to understand their ambitions, their personal challenges, and their strengths. Kim suggests something called career conversations, where you sit down and talk with each person about their long-term career goals, not just what they're doing now, but where they see themselves in 5, 10, 20 years. For example, when Kim was leading teams at Google, she once had a team member tell her, "I want to start my own company one day." Knowing this, Kim was able to offer them opportunities to develop entrepreneurial skills, like leading new projects or managing cross-functional teams. This is the foundation of building trust, when you care about someone's long-term success, not just the task at hand. Now that we've covered the philosophy, let's move on to part 2, tools and techniques. Here's where Kim gives us practical advice on how to apply radical candor in real life. Kim highlights 4 essential components: guidance, relationships, teams, and results. Let's break each one down with examples. First up is guidance, which is all about feedback. Not only giving it, but also being open to receiving it, and encouraging a culture where feedback is exchanged freely. Kim's mantra here is, get, give, and encourage guidance. It's not enough to just give feedback. You need to be open to receiving it, even when it's uncomfortable. One story Kim shares is about when she asked one of her team members for feedback, and they told her, "When you speak in meetings, you tend to interrupt people." Now, let's be honest. None of us want to hear that we're doing something wrong. But instead of getting defensive, Kim took this feedback seriously. She started paying attention to how often she interrupted people and worked on letting others finish their thoughts. This kind of feedback can be tough to hear, but it's crucial for personal and professional growth. In Radical Candor, relationships form the backbone of effective leadership. Building trust is essential for open communication and productive feedback. But how do you develop those strong relationships? Start by showing genuine care for your team members as individuals, not just as employees. Ask them about their goals, passions, and even challenges outside work. Create a safe space where they feel valued and heard. Practice active listening, where you're not just hearing, but truly understanding what they're saying. Trust grows when people know you care about them as whole beings. Remember, authentic relationships aren't built overnight. They're nurtured by consistent support and honest dialogue. When relationships thrive, feedback becomes easier and more impactful. So, invest in building those connections and watch how it elevates your team's morale and performance. Next, Kim talks about how to build effective teams. She says, the best managers understand their role is not to be a genius with 1,000 helpers, but to be a leader of leaders. This means giving your team autonomy and space to shine. When Kim was managing at Google, she realized that if she micromanaged, her team wouldn't be able to grow. So she started delegating major projects to her team members, allowing them to step into leadership roles. The result? Her team became more engaged, motivated, and productive. And lastly, driving results collaboratively. Kim emphasizes that you can't get great results by focusing on tasks alone. You need to focus on relationships too. When you care about people, they're more motivated to give their best. For instance, at Apple, when Kim was working on a high-stakes project, she made it clear that she was available to help her team in any way possible. Because her team knew she cared about their success, they felt more comfortable coming to her with challenges, and together they delivered results beyond expectations. Now, before we wrap up, there's one more important topic from Radical Candor that we can't miss: performance reviews, the key to effective feedback. Kim Scott gives us some insightful advice on how to conduct reviews that actually help people grow, rather than dread the process. The key takeaway here is that performance reviews should not be a surprise. If you've been giving regular, candid feedback throughout the year, your team should already know where they stand when it's time for the formal review. Kim tells us that the performance review should be a summary of the feedback you've been giving all along. And the most effective performance reviews focus on growth, not just evaluating past performance. For instance, Kim shares a story where one of her employees already knew exactly what would be discussed in their review, because they'd had regular check-ins about their performance throughout the year. This made the review less stressful and more focused on how the employee could grow and advance in their role. And here's another crucial piece. When conducting performance reviews, Kim advises balancing praise with criticism, but not just any praise. It should be specific, focused on areas of strength and where the employee has made tangible contributions. Kim explains that effective performance reviews mix specific praise, like recognizing a team member for driving a key project to success, with actionable criticism that challenges them to reach the next level. This combination ensures the employee feels appreciated, but also knows where they can improve. Here's how Kim applied radical candor in a performance review. She would start by highlighting specific wins. "You did an amazing job leading the last product launch." Then shift to feedback that pushed the person to improve. "But I've noticed you sometimes struggle with time management, which affected your team during the rollout." By framing the conversation in a caring but direct way, Kim created an environment where employees could reflect on both their strengths and areas for growth without feeling defensive. It's all about using the review as an opportunity for development, not punishment. To sum it up, Kim Scott's approach to performance reviews is built on the same foundation as Radical Candor itself: frequent, clear, and caring feedback. If you've built a culture of trust and openness, the performance review becomes a meaningful tool for growth rather than a stressful critique session. To wrap things up, Radical Candor is an absolute game changer for managers and leaders. When you care personally and challenge directly, you build a culture of trust, accountability, and high performance. Remember, it's not about being overly nice or overly harsh, it's about being radically candid. So whether you're leading a team, running a business, or simply looking to improve your communication skills, this book is packed with practical advice that will help you create stronger relationships and get better results. If you enjoyed this summary, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more insights. And if you've read Radical Candor or have thoughts on how to give better feedback, drop your comments below. We'd love to hear from you.